Hello, everybody, and welcome into the 50th edition of Texas Longhorns Live. We really appreciate you guys being here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out what we're trying to build here. And let's jump right into it. It was a big weekend for the Texas Longhorns, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They had 12 players drafted into the NFL, which ranks third this year. Ohio State 14, Georgia 13, Texas 12. So Texas with 12 guys. We'll run down this real quick for you guys if you didn't know. Kelvin Banks, first round, number 9 picks of the Saints. 20th pick overall in the first round. Jahdae Barron to my Denver Broncos. So I get to buy a jersey. I get to represent with him. So that's really cool. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Green Bay. That was a really cool moment for him as well to be introduced to the home fans while he's there. 43rd overall pick in the second round, Alfred Collins to San Francisco. Andrew Makuba to Philadelphia at the end of the second round. Vernon Broughton, who I was surprised got drafted pretty early in the third round, 71st pick to the New Orleans Saints. That was a really cool phone call with Bo Davis. I definitely want you guys to check that out. He said, "Hey, what's up, chicken legs?" which is really funny because if you've seen Vernon Broughton legs, yes, that was like a main concern of his actually coming out into the NFL was, hey, he's kind of got a small frame with the legs. But, hey, it worked out for him. Fourth round, Gunnar Helm tied into Tennessee. Baron Sorrell, fourth round as well to Green Bay. That was also another cool moment being introduced to the home fans. Jaden Blue, fifth round Dallas Cowboys. Sixth round Cam Williams. Sixth round Hayden Connor. And then seventh round, the last Longhorn drafted, came to my surprise. I was very surprised by it, actually. Quinn Ewers, and we'll definitely discuss that to the Miami Dolphins. Gerald, I'll let you start first. What was your biggest, I guess, surprise? Who do you think landed in the best spot? Who do you think landed in the worst spot? Just all those questions.
Yeah, I think my biggest surprise, and we'll talk about it more in depth, is probably where Quinn Ewers landed, I think, in the pecking order. There were a lot of guys that performed not quite as good as he did this last year. They were drafted ahead of him. So we'll talk probably more about that more pointedly here in just a minute. That was the big surprise for me. I mean, ultimately, Texas had 12 guys drafted in this class, an absolute incredible run. This is just proof, I think, that the old adage or the old conversation of like Texas being the place where 5 stars go to die, that has kind of been eliminated in a lot of the ways that things are perceived, right? Folks used to be hesitant to take guys from Texas because of attitude, because of entitlement, because of development, whatever it might be. And now Texas guys have multiple, like the 3 guys in the first round, multiple guys in the first round for multiple years now. Like this is an incredible run for Texas. I have a lot of Texans fans that are pretty salty that Green Bay decided to take their first wide receiver in the first round in like 23 years. And so Matthew Golden didn't get to go back home to Houston. Folks are pretty salty about that. But ultimately, you know, I think for Texas, and that's what this channel is, right? Having the longest streak of drafted running backs, right? 3 years in a row. You've got that. They've got that kicking. They've got 12 guys. They've got back-to-back years of first-round draft picks. Like Texas is going to start having a reputation of being the place, and they already have, right? Guys that come to Texas as a transfer destination. This is a recruiting pitch for the coaches. This is a recruiting pitch for guys who are wanting to come to campus. Hey, you want 1 year to come get you in the NFL? Look at Matthew Golden, right? You need 1 year to come and get you in the NFL? Look at these guys that stepped up at the defensive tackle position at Texas years in a row to get taken in the NFL draft. Ultimately, massive outing for Texas. Big weekend for the Longhorns. School record for a 7-round draft. Like, what more could you need?
No, 100%. I think there's a lot of things that stood out. Like prior to the draft happening, Kelvin Banks was, kind of getting poo-pooed and like he's going to play guard, da-da-da-da-da. Well, that turned out to be like a negative spin where guys were probably like pushing it out there so he would fall to them because he went number 9 overall. And I think he landed in a pretty good spot for him. And I think he's going to play day one. I think he's going to be a really good player as well day one. Jahdae Barron probably fell a little bit lower.
Yeah, Jahdae Barron fell a little bit lower than folks were anticipating. A lot of folks had him as one of, if not the first cornerbacks off of the board. So that's another thing that I think is a big surprise for Texas fans and for folks that follow the draft. It's a very fickle process. This is a very lineman-heavy draft overall. So you saw skill players get kind of shifted down a little bit. You saw skill players not get drafted as highly as they once would have probably in previous years. So the ultimately for Texas, again, we said it before, this was a huge year for them to get the guys where they needed to go in the NFL draft. And again, Sark and this group have proven now, we're multiple years in a row, that Texas is a place to go to get developed for the NFL draft. Texas is a place to go to get yourself positioned for your future, right? And as much as we don't want to think about like the college football ranks being kind of a minor league for the NFL, ultimately these guys come to Texas with the goal of going to the NFL. If they don't, I'd try to get their heads checked, right? I would be shocked. Most of those guys are going to be guys that want to go to Texas to try to get to the NFL. And so this is now another year where you can point to it and say, come here, we're going to get you the reps that you need. The quarterback situation is another conversation. I'm going to wait for Matthew to get back on. I know he's having some technical issues to have that conversation, but I think ultimately, especially when you talk about linemen, guys in the trenches, Texas has now had multiple defensive tackles drafted back-to-back years, right? It had two this year, two last year with Murphy and Sweat, right? You also had Poona Ford a couple of years ago be the undrafted free agent signing that everybody wanted and made some money for himself in that, right? Offensive linemen, you've got Kelvin Banks, you got Cam Williams, you have other guys getting drafted out of Texas. Again, guys that we didn't necessarily think were going to have really good draft grades came out and proved that they were guys at Texas that would want to be taken off of the board. And again, the shift from Texas being a place where you don't get developed and you don't get the opportunities to live your dreams and achieve your dreams, that thing has been officially squashed. And I'm happy that Matthew's back to pick that up.
Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely has been squashed. I've seen some things on Twitter about, we turned Quinn Ewers from the number 1 overall recruit to the 7th round pick. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I think out of everyone that landed in the best spot, honestly, I think Matthew Golden landed in a good spot with the Packers just because of the type of offense they run. I think that's a really good spot for him. I think Jaden Blue landed in a pretty good spot as well. Like, the Cowboys don't really have much of a running back room there. I think he can, if he just can hold on to the football, then he can play in that room. He could honestly probably end up being their number 1 or 2 running back. So overall, I think those two guys landed in a really good spot. And then I know where he landed sucked, but Quinn Ewers and a Mike McDaniel offense is like the perfect, like there are 3 spots I think would have been perfect for him. San Francisco, who just signed Brock Purdy to an extension. They're not going to do that, unfortunately, because I think that's his best spot. Number 2 is sitting right behind Matthew Stafford, learning in a Sean McVay offense. And number 3 is Miami. Those were the best spots for Quinn Ewers. He landed in Miami, and he's going to have a chance to play, guys. He is. He's got the arm talent. He's really good at that, being a point guard and distributing really quickly, and that's what Tua does. And guess what? Tua gets hurt. And to me, if I'm Quinn Ewers, I'm resting. I'm getting my body ready. I'm building it up, because if he can stay healthy and Tua continues to get hurt, I think he's got a real shot there in Miami.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And as a Dolphins fan, right? Like I saw it. I was like, yep, that makes sense, because this is a room that Quinn has an opportunity. If he can stay healthy, right, then he's got an opportunity to come in and play, because Tua has. That guy's brain has been scrambled too many times, and I wish somebody would tell him to retire. It is what it is, right? Another conversation for another day. But ultimately, like, Quinn falling that far was unexpected. It wasn't what we thought was going to happen. It's not what he thought was going to happen. I don't think a lot of folks had him probably as one of the, the 3 to 5 range for quarterbacks, right? Or in the 3 to 5 rounds for quarterbacks coming off the board. And I think for him, it may be a little bit of a wake up call. I don't know what was the knocks on him, why he ended up falling that far. And there's going to be all sorts of think pieces coming out, and somebody will leak some information about it. Whatever, we'll find more about that in the next couple of weeks. But ultimately, I think for Quinn Ewers, there have been opportunities, I think, for him to. He talked about it last year, right? When he was struggling with his accuracy, it was a footwork issue, right? Where he wasn't really focusing on his footwork. And I just wonder what the wake-up call is. And maybe this is the wake-up call for him. If there's something that's going to get him to really get things right and to get things back, because he was trying to completely change his footwork during the pre-draft process, and just so many weird decisions. Like, he is such a supremely talented kid, insanely talented kid. We've seen it. Like, we've seen the flashes of brilliance. We've seen him play really, really well. And so I wonder for Quinn, like, if this is going to be something that hopefully gets him into that next gear, because it just felt like there was another level that he could get to, and he just wasn't quite getting up to it.
No, I agree. And yeah, in the John Gruden thing, if you guys haven't checked that out, the interview with him, he basically said, I changed my footwork. And John Gruden looked at him like, why are you changing your footwork now? That's kind of a weird thing to do. And he basically said, because someone told him to. And I don't know if that's a good enough excuse either. Like Gruden pushed back on that. That you just because someone tells you to do something doesn't mean you have to do it, because you've gone your whole life doing it a certain way and it's gotten you here. So you should be able to trust in your abilities to do that. Yeah, there was listen, I'm not saying Quinn Ewers should have been a first round pick or anything. I agree with you, Gerald, what you said. That was exactly what I thought his range was, 3 to 5. That's what I thought he was going to go in, somewhere in between there. Because I'm sorry, Riley Leonard should not be picked ahead of Quinn Ewers. Will Howard, in my opinion, should not be picked ahead of Quinn Ewers. Graham Mertz should not be picked ahead of Quinn Ewers. Cam Miller from North Dakota State should not be picked ahead of Quinn Ewers. There was someone else in there as well. Kyle McCord, I'm actually fine with. I'm pretty high on Kyle McCord, so I understand that. I'm fine with Tyler Shaw or Shuck or whatever the heck, how you pronounce his last name. I'm fine with Shadur Sanders, obviously. I'm fine with, Dylan Gabriel. That one made no sense to me, but it is the Browns, so, they're going to do stupid things. But that one made no sense as well, because there's no upside to any of those guys I mentioned. They're tapped out football players. There's very few things they can do to get better other than Cam Miller, maybe for North Dakota State, but he's an FCS quarterback, so I'm sorry. Quinn Ewers should have went above him. But I just don't understand it. That was my frustration. I had that frustration on Twitter, and people wanted to, slap back, but they all said, basically, they never gave me a reason. It was Quinn Ewers just sucks. Okay, if that's your reason, it's not a very good one, because you could say that, like I said, for those 5 to 6 guys drafted ahead of him that I didn't understand.
The only thing that I can possibly imagine is if something weird came back on his injury evaluations. And this is not me. I don't have any sources. The only thing that would possibly make sense is that there's something weird on his injury evaluations. The guy's been hurt basically every year except the one he didn't play in Ohio, at Ohio State. So maybe that is a flag for folks. I'm not sure. I feel like there's a piece of information missing that none of us have. It's going to be oh, that's what it is. But ultimately, Quinn made the decision that he thought he needed to make, go to transfer somewhere else. I think it was ready for him to move. He was ready to move on. I think the school and the fans and the coaches were ready for him to move on and to move on to the Arch Manning era. So it was the right decision for him. He wasn't going to play anywhere else. He wasn't going to transfer and just go be a 1-year mercenary for somebody. That's not who he is. The guy got the Longhorn tattooed on his body before he enrolled at the University of Texas, before he even transferred there. He's not going to play anywhere else. So ultimately, yes, it sucks to see him slide, and he could have probably come back and gotten more money in 1 year than he is on his rookie contract. But ultimately, his goal was to play in the NFL. Check that off, right? He brought the University of Texas back to prominence. Texas won a conference championship. Hadn't done that since Colt McCoy, right? Sits probably top 5, I think, in most of the major statistical categories at the University of Texas. Back-to-back college football playoff semifinals. The guy has accomplished a ton at the University of Texas. And so, his legacy, I think, here is cemented. And ultimately, it was time for him, right? It was time for him to go to accomplish that next goal. And Miami, like you said, is a good spot for him because he's one to a weird fall away from being on the field.
No, 100%. The one other guy I'd like to discuss is Cam Williams. I don't know who gave that guy his advice, but it was awful, awful, awful advice, because we both sat here before the draft and said, listen, you're probably going to be a 2nd-round pick. He ends up being a 6th-round pick. And we both thought even a 2nd-round pick, he should come back because he just has a lot to work on. He held way too much, committed all sorts of penalties. And then also he really struggles with a fast edge rush. When Jack Sawyer got off that ball quickly, he couldn't touch him. And he struggled with that all year long. And that's why I said he should have come back. And he would have started on this team, and he would have elevated his draft stock. And also, too, there was an injury problem at the end of the year as well. So he wouldn't have had to worry about that most likely going into next year as well, the NFL draft.
Yeah, the Cam Williams one is weird, and that's one we'll probably revisit multiple times. But ultimately, I think he got bad advice. I think and there were people that had him mocked in the 1st and 2nd rounds. And based on attributes, Cam Williams is a 1st or 2nd rounder, but based on play, based on what he put on the field, based on the tape, definitely was not a 1st or 2nd rounder. And he went to Philly, right? I believe. So that's a good spot for him to land. Great offensive line coach in Philly. I think they'll get him right sooner rather than later. So I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing, but he would be playing. He'd be starting this year, be probably the best offensive lineman in that unit this year, and really make a name for himself and ultimately get that 1st or 2nd round grade, that an accurate, let me say 1st or 2nd round grade. But yeah, his decision, I think, is the one that probably all the Quinn Ewers think pieces that I'm seeing on social media about Quinn should have came back and transferred. That's bunk, but I do think Cam Williams is a guy who I think probably at the end of the weekend probably regrets the decision just a little bit.
No, I agree. I think he definitely regrets it. I agree. He's in a great spot. Like, that's another really good landing spot for him. He'll be able to sit. He'll learn from a really good offensive line coach and really good offensive lineman, and he'll play. There's no doubt in my mind he will eventually play in the NFL. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know when that will be, and it could be pretty far down the road, and that's why I thought he should have come back. But overall, I think it's a really good performance for the Texas Longhorns in general, and I think most of these guys honestly landed in very, very good situations. I don't think I really look at this list and think, man, that's going to be a hard situation. Maybe Alfred Collins landing in San Francisco because they have a lot of defensive linemen, so we'll see how he breaks in there. But everyone else can play right away. Like Makuba's got a chance with the Eagles. Barron's definitely playing with the Broncos. I mean, Barron Sorrell, I think, will be a little bit of a rotation player with Green Bay, but a lot of good places for these guys to land.
Very good landing spots for him.
The next topic we'll touch on, and I think this is an important topic because I think the expectations have kind of ebbed and flowed with this team coming up into this year. And I just want to get your opinion of what the expectation should be. And let me lay this out for you guys right now. So Texas currently on DraftKings has the second best odds to win the national championship behind Ohio State. This list goes Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Oregon, Penn State, Bama, Notre Dame, Clemson, LSU, Ole Miss. That's the national championship odds. I'll shoot it over to the SEC. Obviously, Texas, if they're second, they're number one in the SEC. Number two is Georgia. Number three is Alabama. Number four is LSU. Now, this is kind of weird because Ole Miss is number 10 on the national championship odds, but Texas A&M is fifth in the SEC championship odds. Then Ole Miss is 6, Tennessee 7, South Carolina 8. That gets you through half the SEC. So do you think those expectations are fair, or what do you think the expectation should be?
This is such a weird situation in case where I always talk about you have to be able to hold multiple truths at the same time, right? And this is a team that is supremely talented, right? Arch Manning should come in and be a really good quarterback, right? The wide receiver room, they're restocking. They're adding some talented transfers. They've got a bunch of talented young guys. They've got a lot of talent on the offensive line. They've got CJ Baxter coming back. So the talent on the offense should be there. The defense, I don't anticipate much of a drop-off. Jahdae Barron's a massive one to lose, but I think outside of that, the rest of the defense should be pretty flat. And so, ultimately, we could see Texas hit the same heights or even higher than we saw this year. Now, that being said, the caveat, the asterisk is none of these guys have a ton of experience, right? Especially on the offensive side of the ball. You've got a first-year starter quarterback that's starting behind a new offensive line unit. Yes, the guys in the offensive line have a ton of snaps or have some play to play as second teamers, but playing as a cohesive number one offensive line unit is different than spot duty, right? You've got untested guys at wide receiver. You've got CJ Baxter coming off of a multi-ligament knee injury, right? So the ceiling for Texas national championship, right? But is that a fair expectation? I don't know, because the floor could be pretty low for this group just based on, and it's not me being a doomsayer or whatever, but ultimately, if you tell me any other school with a first-year quarterback who's not named Manning, who's got a retooled offensive line, questions at all of the offensive skill positions, I'm not picking them to win the national championship. But because it's Texas, because we know what Sark has done with this group, because we know that the offense should be good, because we know Pete Kwiatkowski can scheme up one heck of a defense, right? Because we know all of those things. I think we're giving Texas the benefit of the doubt. Now, do I feel like Texas is one of the best 5 teams in the country, regardless of all that? Yes, but I think there's such a wide variance between its national championship is the ceiling for this team, but the floor could be a 3 or 4 loss season in the regular season, and folks would be frustrated by that.
Ari Silva, I haven't seen you before, so welcome, first off. And then also, we should expect another home playoff game, at least in my opinion. Anything above that would be gravy. I mean, yeah, I think this team should at least win one playoff game. I'm more of the 2, get back to the Final Four. And so my opinion is different. I don't have to lock anything in a stone. Last year I was between 11-1, 10-2. I ended up going 11-1. I was proven to be right by the team. I was actually thinking between 9-3 and 10-2 this time before the transfer portal. That is what got me. They really addressed a lot of needs in the spring portal window that I didn't know if they were going to. So that put that to bed. And then this. If Quinn Ewers is truly a 7th round quarterback, If Arch Manning is a second round quarterback, we're getting someone like that. That is a gigantic jump. Hell, let's say he's not, which we both don't think Quinn Ewers is a seventh round quarterback. We're thinking more fourth, fifth round. If Arch Manning's a second round quarterback and Quinn Ewers is a fourth or fifth round quarterback, that is a big improvement. And if he's a first round quarterback, that's even bigger. So that's the thing. It really comes down to me is, if Arch is really that guy, the guy that I'm seeing being mocked as a top 5 pick in next year's draft, even though he will not come out, I'm already saying that he will play 2 years at Texas. This team can win a national championship because, again, when we go down this list, guys, Ohio State, new quarterback, they're kind of in the same scenario as us.
Yep.
Gunnar Stockton at Georgia, kind of in the same situation as us. Oregon, new quarterback. The only two teams on this list, 3 actually, are Penn State, Clemson, and LSU in the top 10, where they have set in stone quarterback and kind of good situations for them as well. That is it. No one else out of that 70% is replacing a lot on the offense or defense side of the ball, plus their quarterback. So that's why I think you got to look at the landscape as a whole of college football, because I agree. If you drop this Texas team into last year's field, they probably I don't think they can win a national championship. But this year's team, like, when you tell me Penn State has the most returning production, I'm sorry. I know who their coach is. I know what they've done. I don't trust that team to go and win a national championship. To me, that would be skipping multiple steps in the process of going to win a national championship, because they've kind of had even more struggles than us. We get to the Final Four and we don't win. They didn't really get into the playoffs until this last year, and they had a ridiculous easy path to the national championship game, and they didn't make it. So that's what I'm seeing from this, like, top 10 with Texas, and then the expectations for Texas as well.
Yeah. First of all, again, shout out to Aries. Are you at TCU or Kansas State? I need to know. Let us know in the comments which one are you at, TCU or Kansas State. Either way, I love you repping the burnt orange in enemy territory. No, but I think you're spot on. And you know, I think the jump that we're anticipating or expecting from at the quarterback position, again, could have a massive impact on the outcomes for this team. And there is a lot. I think this is going to be a year where we don't know who's good until the end of the year. I think a lot of teams are going to take a while to gel and a while to create. And so, you know, what Aries is saying, I think is really fair, right? Texas probably maybe they don't win the SEC, but they're the second best team in the SEC. They land at, you know, a 5 through 8 seed, right? Kind of in a similar situation to where they were this year. And I think that's a completely fair expectation, right? Because it allows you to lose maybe 1 or 2 regular season games, lose 1 regular season game, and lose in the conference championship or whatever that might look like. Again, that's not what I want to happen. I just think that's a more realistic set of expectations for Texas, right? Because again, there's just so much, especially offensively, there's so much cycling happening. It is not plug and play. It is what it is, right? It's not plug and play. It's going to take a minute, especially I played offensive line in high school, right? I didn't play in college, but I've talked to guys who are high-level offensive line coaches, and that it just takes a while for those dudes to gel, right? Where do my hands need to go? Where do my feet need to go in relationship to yours? All those things are those little minute details that are the difference between an 11-1 season and a 10-2 or a 9-3 season, right? Those things take a minute to gel. So I think, again, fair expectation, and I'm with Aries here, right? If Texas drops 1 or 2 regular season games, I think that's still acceptable because they'll likely host another playoff game in Austin if that's the case, and things are going well for them.
No, I think the baseline now for Texas is getting to the playoffs. Like, anything outside of that is a failure, because we've seen it year in and year out the last 2 years. So I think that is like the absolute baseline. He also says, haha, that was away at TCU, Texas, lifelong Horns fan. Hopefully they won that game, because they've had issues at TCU. So hopefully they won that game. But yeah, I don't know if they're second, but then again, like I said, I look at the list and who are you going to put there? Like, I see them being ranked number 1 preseason, and I say, do I feel confident about that? No, but who am I going to put there? Like I said, there's only really 2 to 3 teams in the running for preseason number 1 for me. I think Penn State is in that running because of everything they bring back. They have Drew Aller. They have the 2 running backs. They just got the Syracuse wide receiver. They have some defensive players coming back. Now, Abdul Carter, I don't know how you're going to replace him because I think he's very freaking good. And we'll see how that goes, but I think they're going to be a pretty good team. Also, Jim Knowles' system takes a while to learn. Like we saw Ohio State, it took a while for them to get to the level that they were at. And then Georgia, like, they took a step back last year, and they lost a lot off that defense. And Gunnar Stockton, I don't know. I'm higher on him than most, but I still don't know. Oregon, I'm going to be honest. I think this is the biggest dropper. I think Oregon drops off a little bit this year. That's my opinion. Alabama, again, I don't know what to expect there. The Clemson is the interesting one to me because if Cade
Yeah.
Klubnik can be like he was when he played versus Texas in that college football playoff game, they can win a national championship. Can he do that? I don't know because I really only saw it from one game the whole year, and it was that Texas game.
Yeah, but I mean, football, especially college football, is a quarterback-driven game, right? A good quarterback can take you to high heights, right? And I think the two best returners this year are probably Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller, right? If I have to look at the landscape of college football, maybe the guy at LSU, right, Nussmeier, right?
Yeah.
So like those three are probably your three best returning starters. And I'm trying to think of other returning starters at quarterback. There's not a ton of them, but those are probably your top three best returning starters. And so like in a quarterback driven game, in a quarterback driven league, those are probably the guys that you gravitate towards. And again, I think it's part of the reason why folks are so high on Texas, because people are expecting Arch Manning to come in and be the second coming of Vince Young or whoever at Colt McCoy instantaneously. So I think that's why some of the expectations on Texas are so high, because it's a quarterback driven game. It's an offensive driven game. If your quarterback is on, then you're a national championship contender, or at least a college conference championship contender. That was way harder to say than it should have been. But I think that's why folks are high on Texas. But ultimately, like you said, Drew Aller coming back, Garrett Nussmeier coming back, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. Again, we don't know. Maybe that's an upgrade over the previous guy. It's another conversation for another day. But quarterbacks, I think quarterbacks are the straw that stirs the drink when it comes to national championship expectations in college. And again, Arch, I think he's going to be incredible. But again, first-year starter behind a new line. I'll leave it there.
Hey, we'll know early. We play Ohio State week 1, so we'll see how that goes in Columbus. But, hey, drop your predictions, what you think the expectation should be for Texas down below. I'm very interested to see what you guys think, and we appreciate you guys doing that. Next up, we're going to talk about how you can sponsor this show or any show on the Voice of College Football Network. We would really appreciate that. We've had agencies like the Win Agency, who's now on the screen. They've loved working with the Voice of College Football and all we have to offer. So we'd really appreciate it if you guys got the word out there and you could sponsor any one of the shows. Get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. Let's discuss how you can reach your target market audience. Check out the experience of one of our current partners on the screen. Contact us at sponsorships@vocfb.com today. We really appreciate you guys doing that. Again, guys, it does not have to be the show. It can be any show on the network, and we really appreciate it. Also, check out the Voice of College Football Instagram page. Just type in Voice of College Football. You will check us out right there. We're the only one that pops up. We really appreciate you guys doing that. And then if you want to listen to us instead of watching, check us out on your favorite audio platform, like it says down in the corner, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. We are there. Just type in the Voice of College Football, and we're there with Iowa, USC, Ohio State, Michigan. The season is close approaching, guys. I think we're 117 days away from college football. It goes by fast. And we open up with obviously a great football game, so please do that as well. Now, let's talk about what could be a future Longhorn. He did visit for the first time, and that is Derek Cooper from Florida, 6'1", 205. He is the number 2 athlete, according to 247 Composite, in the country. Visited for multiple days last week to Texas. He has another visit hopefully lined up in June. Texas is trying to make that a weekend visit instead of a weekday visit, so he's going to have to bump one of his other visits. Right now, he is crystal ball to Miami, OSU, Bama, and UGA also in the mix. What do you think of Derek Cooper, Gerald?
Yeah, if you go back and listen to last week's show, whether it's audio or video, we talked about the running back room and how Texas doesn't really have that second pitch at the running back position. All the backs are really similar, right? They're thick, they're big, they're physical, they're going to run that zone scheme really well. Derek Cooper would be that second pitch, right? He is more of a dynamic runner. He's got a little bit more of that top end speed. He's got a little bit more of that breakaway speed. So he's a guy that could come in and differentiate himself from that room of running backs. Because again, that is a skill set that I think of a really well-built running back room that Texas is missing, right? Don't get me taking shots at the Texas running back room. Tashard Choice left Texas in a really, really good position in the running back room. But there is a gap there of that guy who's got that breakaway speed. Jaden Blue was that guy this last year, right? Texas doesn't have that. I think Derek Cooper is a guy who's got that good combination of size, right? 6'1", 200 plus, but also a really fast runner. He looks really fast on tape. He looks really fast playing. He is a two-position guy. He's a running back and a safety, I think. And I actually think 247 has him projected at safety, but Tashard Choice was recruiting him when Tashard Choice was at Texas. So I think Texas used him as a running back. And so ultimately, I think if he comes into Texas, and Texas does, if he ultimately ends up at Texas, he's a guy who can add a second pitch to that room. He's a guy who can add another dynamic to that room. And he may not be your every down back because I think, again, this is no knock on him, but like every young running back needs to learn how to pass block in college. And so he's probably not going to be your every down back that CJ Baxter. He comes in and can pass block for you on third down. But he's a guy who can come in and be a speed back, be a two back, be a guy who does some of those gadget plays early, get himself contributing. And then as he develops, get him more and more in the offense.
No, 100%. That's a really good point. He's a state qualifier in Florida in the 100-meter dash during his sophomore year. So like you said, a really, really good athlete. And yeah, 247 was all over the place. It could be a running back. Safety is what he plays, but they also said linebacker. And I think it's kind of a feeling out process of what you think his body's going to end up being like, because apparently he's grown a lot over the past year. So, I mean, if this guy ends up being 6'4", 220, I don't think that's, unless you're Derrick Henry, I don't think that's really a running back's body. That's
Only
more
one
of a linebacker. Yeah, that dude's a freak. So unless you're going to be him, you're going to probably end up playing safety or linebacker, which I'm not opposed to. Obviously, he's a really good athlete. And this is a thing. Again, we talk about versatility. We're recruiting a really good athlete that can kind of play all over wherever we need him. I mean, this guy's good enough athlete to where if he ends up being like 6'2", 220, you could probably see him play a little bit of both if they need him to. So I think really good get if we can get him. I completely agree right now. I think if he comes onto campus and plays right away, it's going to be like swing passes, screens, stuff like that. You're not going to expect him to come in and block right away. That's kind of what we said about James Simon. Like, we don't really love him in that position of being the second running back right now because guys like that aren't ready most of the time. And that is the biggest area where they're not ready is pass blocking. And we definitely know Sark loves his guys to pass block, whether that be the running back, the tight end, or the wide receiver. So you have to be able to do that. And that's how you make your money. I mean, that's how Bijan Robinson became Bijan Robinson and became a top 10 pick because he became a better blocker in the backfield. So can this guy come in and do that right away? I don't think so. But then again, the dude's playing linebacker, so he has physicality. It may just be more of a technique thing with him when he steps foot on campus.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about it before. These like multi-position guys just come in a little less polished than everybody else because they've got to learn multiple techniques. They can't be a specialist. They can't do that. So he's got a little bit of more development to do, which is why that he has that longer development curve. But I think ultimately Texas seems to be pushing really hard for him. I wonder if this is another two-back class because I don't really think they're backing off from a guy like KJ Edwards or anything like that. So is this a two-back class? Texas seems to be in a position to need to take multiple backs for multiple years, which is really weird because the running back room is in a pretty good spot, but I wonder if they're anticipating some attrition there. I'm not sure. But ultimately, bring him to campus, get him on campus, and then if he comes onto campus and grows 2 inches and puts on 30 pounds, then we'll figure it out, right? Like, just get good athletes on campus, get them in the right strength and conditioning program, get them on the right diet, and then figure out where they play on the football field.
No, 100%. Now, if it was a one running back class, which I agree with you, it's going to be two because that's been the pattern. Literally every year they recruit two guys, and usually under Tashard Choice, it was a style thing. They would get a fast guy with a big guy in one class. That's kind of how they did it. Who would you rather have, KJ Edwards or Derek Cooper?
Oh man, this is so tough. I think because of the current situation of the running back room, I think Cooper specifically because of the skill set. Right? I think KJ Edwards is an incredible back, and when he's in Burnt Orange, I said when, not if, when he's in Burnt Orange next year, I will be very happy with it. I'm very excited on what Texas push for him. But Derek Cooper has that breakaway speed, that elite top level speed that just isn't in the running back room right now. So from a filling out the room from a skill set perspective, I think Cooper has to be the pick because of that top level speed.
No, I agree. And I agree with you. It's kind of weird to get to because unless Trey Wisner declares, we're literally going to have every one of these guys back next year. And that would give us 2, 4, 6, I think 8 guys in the room, 7 or 8 guys in the room. That's a very loaded room. Most likely you'd have 1 or 2 transfer at that point. I'd really be shocked if you have 8 guys of that level on your roster at the running back position. It's honestly kind of unneeded anyways.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. They maybe try to future-proof it, anticipating one or two of these guys. Maybe I don't know who, but they've got a lot of talented guys who play very similar styles. So I wonder if they're anticipating one or two of them hitting the portal.
100%. That does it for Derek Cooper. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really, really helps out the channel. Let's talk about young guys that are stepping up while they are on campus. Spring practice did end, but a lot of stuff has come out, and we'll just run down the list. So guys apparently stepping up: Nick Brooks, Justice Terry, Lance Jackson, Kobe Black, Grayson Littleton has been like the standout and surprise guy, which is really cool to see. I was really high on him coming out of high school. I thought that was a really good win from Texas, getting him from Clemson and Michigan, because that was a fight down to the wire. Like, Michigan tried to the last second to get this guy. And then Brandon Baker's actually been coming on of late as well. So out of these guys, who are you most surprised by, and who are you least surprised by on this list of who's standing out?
I think least surprised by, you and I have talked about how much I love Brandon Baker before. I think Brandon Baker coming in and stepping up was not unexpected. He probably could have played last year if he needed to, but having another year to grow into that body and grow into those paws is something that I think we were anticipating. Justice Terry is another one. Like, the Justice Terry Lance Jackson thing at the defensive end position is another one that's not really unexpected. Anybody that saw Lance Jackson like being on the sidelines during the playoffs, like, he just looked like another dude that was already there, and he was the youngest guy there. He just looks the part. You and I were high on Justice Terry. We talked about him multiple times. We thought that was going to be big. Nick Brooks is probably the one that surprises me, and we'll have, obviously the legal issues notwithstanding, it's just, you don't expect freshman offensive lineman to come in and be a guy that's getting a lot of run, to be a guy like, Kelvin Banks is a unicorn. He is a snowflake. He is a one-of-one kind of guy. You don't expect true freshmen to come in and be one of the top offensive linemen on the squad. And so for Nick Brooks to get that much hype and praise is pretty surprising for me, simply because he's 18, maybe he may not even be 18, maybe 17, right? 17-year-old lining up across some 22, 23-year-old guys on the defensive line, right? Like, that is a difference between a child and a grown man. And so Nick Brooks being a guy that came up and got some hype, which makes his bad choices even more frustrating, right? Makes it even worse. And we can talk about that. But like, him coming in and being a guy who's getting a lot of hype is not in a bad way. I'm not talking down on the kid, but offensive linemen just don't do that all that often.
No, 100%. I was going to say him as well. Nick Brooks surprises me the most because of, listen, he's big. I think he's 6'5", 6'6", like 350, but I thought he was too big. I thought he'd have to lose like 20, 25 pounds and get down, because I didn't really see him being able to move that well at that size, but apparently he is. And the words to describe him, like the coaching staff and everything around it, are first round pick. And that's high praise, because if they're saying that, then, I mean, they know what they're talking about. Kyle Flood was at Alabama. He just saw Kelvin Banks. So that's really, really cool to see that happening. I think it's really good as well to see Brandon Baker finally turning a quarter, and I guess finally standing out, because we need that. He has to stand out. Like, we can't have someone at that position that, especially with a young quarterback, as we've talked about, that isn't ready to play football. Your tackles have to be solidified. I'm not so worried about the interior, because I think DJ Campbell will hold down the right spot. I think Umlo Zulu's ready at the guard position. I really do. I think he's going to play a lot better than most people expect. And I think Cole Hudson's going to be a decent center, because I saw him at center. I actually think he's probably a better center than he is guard. So it's really up to the tackles. And I trust Trevor Gooseby, honestly. So it's really down to the right tackle position, which is the biggest question mark. So hopefully he keeps picking up the pace there. Grayson Littleton, I'm not shocked by, but this cornerback room is pretty good. So it's kind of crazy to me that he's already standing out in that room. And obviously that's a really good sign. That is a position you want to be deep at, because if injuries happen or someone loses their confidence, which is easy to do because you're left out on an island a lot of the time, it's really good to have backups there that can play. Justice Terry did surprise me that he's lining up at defensive end a little bit more, but then again, like, it's his body type right now. He's only weighing like 270 pounds because he got hurt and hasn't really been able to do anything, lost some weight. So we'll see. Maybe that's just a permanent thing for him. I don't know. That'd be very interesting. I mean, we all thought it would be beef up, play on the inside, but hey, if he wants to rush the passer, and that's more of like a Barron Sorrell type, I'd be fine with that. Obviously, I think he's going to end up being a better player than Barron Sorrell, even though Barron Sorrell was a very good player for Texas. It's really cool to see that. Now on the Nick Brooks thing, like, I'm not that angry about it, because I think it was at this point like a weed pen in a cart. Now, do I think you should be smarter instead of hitting a weed pen in a cart? Yes, you should. It's kind of like that test that they do for the NFL Combine where guys pop at the NFL Combine for weed. It's like, dude, you knew this was coming. Why are you doing this? Same thing being in a car. Just once you get home, do whatever the hell you want. I don't care. Just don't be doing it in the car.
Yeah, there's like, again, I talked about it earlier. This is one of those spots where like you have to hold multiple things to be true, right? Like one, like being intoxicated of any kind behind the wheel is awful, and you shouldn't do it. And like it ruins lives and it kills people. Like, do not do it. It is dumb. Don't do it. But like the decriminalization of marijuana in Austin continues to happen. It's a thing, and so I wonder if it was just one of those like nobody's gonna see me. I have my pen on me. Whatever. Like again, don't drive impaired. Like period. End of sentence. Don't do it. It's stupid. He's got enough from the Pancake Factory to afford an Uber home from wherever he's going, right? So like there are options, there are opportunities for you to not do that. But I will say, and this is the thing, it's like there have been guys who have messed up like this as freshmen, young cats that went through the restorative process with the team and never got in trouble again, right? There are dudes that came on and were productive members of society, right? We all did dumb things when we were 18. We all weren't driving impaired, but we all did really stupid things when we were teenagers, right? This 17, 18-year-old kid on his own for the first time in Austin. I remember that feeling. I did some stupid things, right? But ultimately, like, don't do it. You've got options. Uber's a thing. Don't get on one of those little scooters. You're too big for it. But like, get an Uber. The e-buses are free. Like, I just figure something out. Don't be dumb. Like, but also like, let's not pile on a 17-year-old who made a mistake. Like, let him go. There needs to be consequences. There need to be harsh consequences. Don't hear me saying that. Consequences for it. Let him go through that process. Get right with the coaches. Get right with his teammates, and ultimately get back to what his future is going to be.
No, 100%. I agree with that. I definitely think, like you said, just consequences, because you don't want, like, we talk about culture all the time. This cannot spiral out of control to where it's like a Georgia situation. You don't want that happening because it happens slowly. Stuff like that doesn't happen overnight. Kirby Smart didn't have 30 guys street racing one night. He had one at one point, then it turned into two, then it turned into three, and he never really did anything until, someone literally died doing that. So it's definitely one of those things. You got to get rid of it now. And hopefully he learned his lesson. And I'm sure he did. Like I said, I'm not super worried about it overall, but I'm really happy he's producing right now at Texas as well. And then also Lance Jackson. Yeah, I think that's the most obvious one. Like, that guy could have suited up last year and played for Texas. His body type, he's already ready, 6'5", 275. I don't even know what he weighs now. He might have put on a little bit of weight, but body type wise, he's ready. And then Kobe Black, I think it says a lot. They didn't go in the portal and get another cornerback. That means they trust this guy on the outside position. So that's going to be very interesting. And then I think the nickel's very interesting because is it going to be Grayson Littleton? Is it going to be Wardell Mack? Is it going to be Jalen Gilbo sliding back out in there instead of playing outside? I don't know. I don't know who our nickel is going to be. Jelani McDonald, is he going to play nickel?
Yeah.
He switched there. So who knows? I think that's probably the most wide open position on the defense.
And I think it's a good thing, right? Because this is like one of those, everybody's super talented. It's not like oh crap, we got to play somebody. It's like we get to pick one of these guys, right? So like, that's a good thing. The competition level is high. The competition is high. They're pushing each other. They're getting better. And that's a good problem to have.
No, 100%. We don't start the season May 1st. We started August 31st. So we got plenty of time to decide who wins that battle. That's going to do it for this segment as well. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. We really appreciate you guys doing that. And that was the 50th edition of Texas Longhorns Live. We are here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So check us out, 7 p.m. Central time. And again, guys, please like and subscribe, and also check us out, sponsor the show or any other show on the network. Listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. It really helps out, guys, and we really appreciate it. Also, check us out on Twitter. That is my Twitter right there. Just type in the handle. You can find me. And then check out Gerald as well on Twitter and Blue Sky, as well as his Longhorn Pod, which he hosts every week. So please check that out as well. Same as ours, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. Check it out. We really appreciate it, guys. And as always, hook 'em.